Have you ever wondered why the first black men to become lawyers had to fight for the right to practice law before they could even argue a case? Follow if you've never heard this story, because the earliest black male attorneys in America didn't simply enter the legal profession. They forced the legal system to recognize them as human beings first. The man who broke the first legal barrier. The story begins in 1844 with Macon Bolling Allen. Allen wanted to become a lawyer in Maine, but there was a problem. The state bar exam required applicants to be citizens, and under American law at the time, black people were not considered citizens. So Allen studied the law anyway. He apprenticed under a white abolitionist lawyer. Then he challenged the system. Allen passed the Maine bar exam in 1844, becoming the first black lawyer in American history. But here's the irony. Even after earning his license, many white clients refused to hire him. Courtrooms were technically open to him. Opportunity was not. So Allen moved to Boston. There, he eventually became the first black judge in the United States, serving in Massachusetts in the late 1800s. One man, two historic firsts. The abolitionist lawyer who defended freedom. Another pioneer was Robert Morris Sr. Born in 1823, Morris apprenticed under a white abolitionist attorney in Boston. This was the only way many black men could learn the law. Law schools were often closed to them. In 1847, Morris became one of the first black lawyers admitted to the Massachusetts bar, and he immediately began using the law as a weapon against slavery and segregation. One of his most famous cases challenged school segregation in Boston. Morris argued that black children should not be forced into separate schools. That case, Roberts versus City of Boston, lost in court, but it laid the legal groundwork for the historic decision nearly a century later in Brown versus Board of Education. Sometimes history moves slowly, but every argument builds the next one. The scholar who became a federal judge. By the early 20th century, another legal mind emerged. His name was William H. Hastie. Hastie was born in 1904 in Knoxville, Tennessee. Brilliant from childhood. He graduated from Amherst College and then earned his law degree from Harvard Law School. At Harvard, he finished near the top of his class. But even elite credentials didn't eliminate racial barriers. Hastie eventually joined the faculty at Howard University School of Law. There he mentored young black lawyers who would later reshape American civil rights law. One of those students was Thurgood Marshall. In 1937, President Franklin D. Roosevelt appointed Hastie as the first black federal judge. Later, he would become governor of the U.S. Virgin Islands and a judge on the U.S. Court of Appeals. His influence helped shape the legal strategy of the modern civil rights movement. The man who took segregation to the Supreme Court. Then came the lawyer who would change American law forever. Thurgood Marshall. Marshall grew up in Baltimore. His father worked as a porter. But young Thurgood developed a fascination with legal arguments. Sometimes he would sneak into local courtrooms just to watch trials. He loved the debate, the strategy, the power of the law. Marshall attended Howard University Law School, where he was mentored by William Hastie. There he developed a bold strategy. Instead of protesting segregation only in the streets, he would dismantle it in court. Marshall became the lead attorney for the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. Over the next 2 decades, he argued 32 cases before the U.S. Supreme Court. He won 29 of them. His most famous victory came in 1954. The Supreme Court ruled in Brown versus Board of Education that school segregation was unconstitutional. It was one of the most important legal decisions in American history, and it was led by a black lawyer whose ancestors had been denied the right to read. In 1967, Marshall achieved another milestone. President Lyndon B. Johnson appointed him to the U.S. Supreme Court, the first black justice in the court's history. The pattern behind the progress. If you step back and examine these stories, you see a pattern. Every generation of black attorneys had to fight 2 battles, one inside the courtroom, one outside of it. They fought for justice in legal cases, while simultaneously fighting for the right to practice law at all. Many faced hostility from judges, opposition from colleagues, and sometimes threats from the public. Yet they persisted. Because they understood something powerful. The law could be used as a weapon, not just to maintain inequality, but to dismantle it. The irony of the courtroom. There's a striking irony in this history. Black lawyers helped perfect the legal arguments that made American democracy stronger. Yet for generations, that same democracy excluded them. The Constitution promised equality. But black attorneys had to force the nation to live up to its own ideals. They became defenders of a legal system that had once denied them citizenship. That's not just perseverance. That's transformation. The legacy of black legal pioneers today, thousands of black attorneys, judges, prosecutors, and legal scholars work across the United States. But their path began with pioneers like Macon Bolling Allen, Robert Morris Sr., William H. Hastie, Thurgood Marshall, men who believed the law could change society, even when society resisted them. Their victories opened courtroom doors that had been locked for centuries, and their work continues to shape the justice system today. Subscribe and comment if you'd like to hear more about black legal pioneers, and go to my videos to see more. We don't glorify injustice, we reveal truth, so history can't repeat itself.